Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting of the Wareham School Committee to order. It is Thursday, August 29th. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast by WCTV, audio recorded by Jamie Wixton. Would you please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So the first agenda item on our meeting tonight is a superintendent goals workshop, where we had a subcommittee that has been working with the superintendent over the summer to come up with the next set of goals for the superintendent, and he will present these tonight. We can have a discussion on the various aspects of the goals and go from there. So, Dr. DeAndrea, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone, or good afternoon, I should say. So I do want to, as the chairman said, that the subcommittee, which is Joyce Bakayaki and Jeff Sweat, met with me a couple of times. I bounced a number of different goals off of them, and we worked on some that we thought would be beneficial in the district for the year, and actually a couple years out. So I'm really pleased to be presenting these goals tonight. I think they're goals that'll be truly beneficial to the district. So you should have a copy of the goals, whether on electronically or a paper copy. The first student learning goal 1 is a 2-year goal, and the goal of the goal, or the objective of the goal, is to develop a program for our high school students to gain real-world experience working with children in a teaching capacity. So to do that, the goal is to establish an integrated preschool classroom at the high school. So this would be one of the integrated preschools that currently exists at the elementary school that would be moved over to the high school for the 25-26 school year. It wouldn't be one that's currently in there, but it would be the teacher and the paraprofessional that would go over, be at the high school as a headquarters there. And we would develop supporting coursework in the program of studies at the high school that would align with the preschool and would embed an internship for our high school students to work in that preschool and get some real-world experience working with kids. They would also be able to see how physical therapists work with our students, occupational therapists, speech and language, and it would expose them to many different occupation and opportunities in education, and give them the opportunity to really consider that as something they would want to do later in life. So that is goal number 1, and just looking at the sheet I gave you, anything that I missed, one of the funding, I guess the funding would be a challenging part, of course, with any of these goals. We'd have to look at really outfitting the classroom, which would include installing a bathroom in one of the classrooms for our preschool age students. But after that, that would be just budgeted in the yearly budget that we develop.
Would there be any plans to look at maybe other area schools that have incorporated something like this to see what they do?
Absolutely, and I've already begun some of that. And many of them also include not only working in the preschool, but also having the opportunity to work in going over to the elementary school and working in some of the elementary age classrooms. So I definitely will explore that also.
Joyce?
As far as the high school, what was the principal at the high school, did he think that there'll be any challenges with making this happen? Does he think it will be very well received by the students at the high school?
He's very positive about it. Certainly, there will be challenges. I think mostly just about space and having the space be prepared for the students, but he's excited about it, and he's very positive and supportive.
And as far as it being a class that already exists at the elementary school moving, so we're not expanding our preschool enrollment. It wouldn't allow us to do that because then, of course, that would add an extra expense.
Right. You know, the number of preschool classrooms we have is based on need. And so, of integrated preschool classrooms. And certainly, it would give us an additional space if we need it. But I'm not looking at this as of adding a new one.
Oh, okay.
That we already have.
So we don't have a list of students on a waiting list to get into our preschool. We're able to accommodate.
I think we do
most,
have a list for the model students, but not for, you know, for the students, special ed students, we're required to have the classrooms. so.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Jeff?
I'd like to explore that a little bit more. In our elementary school, we have defined preschool classrooms.
Correct,
I think they're pretty much at capacity. Is that a fair statement?
yes.
They are made up of both SPED children as well as peers.
Correct,
The only difference between the two is one pays and the other doesn't.
correct.
Okay. This is going to increase our capacity for both peers as well as SPED children. It does seem to me that's certainly a benefit for peers because they'll be able to go to a Wareham Public Schools entity to get their education, to get their preschool education. And it also gives us more flexibility in case we don't really want this, our SPED population increases, because if it did, that would force peers out because we're required by law to take the SPED children, and we would therefore have finite capacity right now that we're fully utilizing. So it seems to me Joyce is onto something, and that is, this in fact does increase our capacity, which would either be used by SPED children or peers or both. Is that incorrect?
Well, I think that the part that is important is it definitely expands our capacity by adding another classroom. The integrated preschools.
By integrated, you mean combination SPED and peers?
Correct. And they're required by state to have 15 students. 8 of them have to be model students, 7 of them special ed students. So.
You're saying that's a fixed ratio?
That's correct.
It can't be 9 and 6.
Correct. You have, if you want to go outside of that ratio, you need to apply for a waiver from the state.
Even if the 9 are SPED children?
That's correct. Now, that's.
Wow, I never knew
I'm going
that.
to say that with just a caveat. I haven't had to deal with that in a few years. When I was in my previous job, we always had to apply for waivers to work outside of that from the state. So I don't know if things have changed, but that's the way it was.
How about if it adds up to 14 and not 15? Is there some magic number there too?
I don't know the answer to that.
This
but
is the first I've ever heard this crazy, arbitrary, fixed number. Okay, but go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, so we would have to work
Are these
within.
waivers routinely granted?
They were, in my experience, yes.
Okay. I still love the goal. I still think it's beneficial for Wareham Public Schools, and I still, in my simple brain, think it increases capacity, and that's a good thing for the community.
Right. I love the goal, too.
Oh, one other thing. So a high school student who takes these courses, let's assume for whatever reason, they don't want to go off to college, okay? They actually want to be a para. Does this put them in a position to apply to be a para if they take these courses in Wareham Public Schools?
I think it puts them in a position again, I'm going to have to explore this more, and that's part of the goal, is exactly what certifications can be aligned with this. But yes, it certainly would give them real-world experience that they will be able to walk out and say, hey, this is what I've taken, and this is what I've done, and that will benefit them in applications for jobs such as paras.
It would also benefit us because we're creating a pool of paras from which we can choose if we need them. So it does seem to me that this would be synergistic if we, for both parties, meaning the students and the district, if after taking these courses, they are legitimate applicants for our paraprofessional staff.
Absolutely, and, and I'm hoping also, I mean, as you guys hear often, that we're experiencing such a difficult time finding staff and getting kids excited about a teaching career, I think it would be great.
Okay, thank you.
April?
Can I catch up? Sorry. Where would this be? In your packet? No, thank you. That I saw. I meant like physically in the building.
So we're exploring that. We're exploring where would be the best place to do that, to put the classroom. The challenge is we would have to put a bathroom in the classroom for the students. And so there's the plumbing issue and running the water and all that. So I want to explore a couple of different spots and look at what works for the high school, but also if we can minimize the expense of installing a bathroom.
So this would be pre-K, a standard pre-K, not an integrated pre-K. Like I said, I'm just catching up, so.
Right now, I'm thinking integrated pre-K.
And integrated as well. So is this to replace or like move students from the elementary school to free up classroom space for like more kindergarten? Or what is your, aside from giving high school students like the ability to potentially, see if a field of childcare or having that, I know there are other districts that have done something similar, but ultimately is moving them, select students, like is it a lottery? How will they be chosen? Which ones will stay at the elementary? Which ones will go there? Will then a playground that's age appropriate be added to the high school for them, and where? It's tight, space is tight, and the goal is to keep students in the district, and the majority of students we lose are at the high school. So if we're taking up more space for younger students, should our enrollment be where we want it to be as a goal for the high school, where does that leave that? And then do we invest this money in this development into this to then not be able to see it through if our other goal, which is to keep students in the district, you know what I mean, in numbers wise, that's something that is concerning to me.
So you asked a lot of questions there.
Yeah, like I said, I'm catching up.
So the first is, we wouldn't be moving students, so we would, the goal would be to start it at the beginning of the 25-26 school year. So they would start in that classroom. And yes, we would certainly would be looking for parents that would be okay with having the preschool at the high school, the parents of the preschool students. So I would want to make sure that the parents of those children were well aware of where it's going to be. This is something that is done in many high schools, and it works very well. And I've never heard of any issues around that. I think our goal is to keep students in the district. I think having programs like this that students can get really excited about coming to school and, working with kids and, hey, I'm actually teaching kids, I'm working with them, this is fun, I'm excited, I'm engaged in my learning. I think that, yeah, one classroom, but I think getting the kids excited about coming to school and the opportunities that they'll have in the district will go a long way to keeping them here.
And so my other thought too is if you're renovating one classroom, adding plumbing, bathroom, et cetera, when we have brand-new elementary, beautiful. Middle school has been in fairly recent years, updated, renovated, it's in great condition. The high school, other parts of the high school could use renovating, and I just worry that it's kind of putting the kids that are already there and the needs that are already there, aside for something new when there's existing stuff that needs love and attention. So that concerns me slightly as well. Because, at some point, we're probably just guessing on age and stability, even though we've done some pretty big Band-Aid items at the high school, that we'd be eventually looking to MSBA again at some point for that. So that's in my head also.
Yeah, I think that the renovations that we would have to make is not going to be, relatively speaking, a huge expense.
Well, when we had a, loss of, the budget and loss of the COVID funding and things like that, and had to make as many cuts and adjustments as we had to at the end of the year. So to me, spending anything new and extra is also I don't know, it's just, the timings to me seems like, yes, let's spend all this money on this, but we couldn't spend it to keep certain other things already existing in place. While I don't disagree that it's a great opportunity and a great thought and an idea, it just seems like I would take it if I was a staff member that had to get laid off because of funding, and then we all of a sudden decide to fund something like this, I would view that as a slap in the face. And I just don't want to leave a bad taste in other people's mouths about how we're spending our money. And like I said, coming off of the last and then the budget, I don't know, I just am extra cautious, I guess. So that's all I have.
Okay, second goal, student learning goal number 2. This is also a 2-year goal. We have, as a component, we have our public safety career pathway at the high school, and I'm looking, how can we make that more attractive for our students, give them, when they participate in that pathway, that they can look to graduate from the high school with some skills and a license that will allow for them to become employed quickly, and will also build sort of that kind of foundation that they can build off of and move into a public safety career. So I'd like to establish an EMT course as part of the public safety career pathway at the high school. Students will have to, by going through it, now I'm learning a little bit about the EMT certification. I think it's about 120 to 150 hours. It's a lot. There would be classes that they would have prerequisites at the high school in order for them to be prepared for the program. But it would be something that would be a 1-year course during the senior year. In order to take the EMT test, you have to be 18 years old. So that's why I'm thinking seniors. But I think, again, this is similar to my previous goal, that it's an opportunity for our students to be looking at, hey, when I graduate from high school, I'm going to have an opportunity to go right into a job. And this EMT program is interesting, and they'd be more engaged in school, so.
sorry, you're gonna hate me today. No, so with the courses that would be, have prerequisites, if it is a student that is a senior and they decide late, I know that the high school does offer opportunity where students can take a class that's online or outside of their, how would that be something in consideration for that if they hadn't taken it previously, but they take it in conjunction senior year? Would that count as a prerequisite, or if they add it online?
That's a great question, and I think those are all the things we're gonna, I look to implement this goal, these are the things we're gonna have to figure out exactly, you know, the timeline and when things are done and what's allowable and what isn't. But those are great questions and something that we're gonna have to have answers to.
Okay, thank you.
Jeff?
Just to
No, go ahead.
Oh.
Just a comment, the good news is that this would normally cost a lot of money for people to take outside of school. So they'd be saving a lot of money and getting this EMT certification. The only bad news is, unfortunately, as important as the EMT position is, it doesn't pay very well, which means that if they really want to become an independent adult, they're going to probably have to move on to being a firefighter, a paramedic, or something that requires more education. But this will tell them whether this is the direction they want to go and help them get there. So I applaud it as a goal, and I think it's a good start for people to try and figure out what they want to do. And from a parent's point of view, it's going to give them a very specific skill set which has value. And if lots of parents want their kids to come out of education with marketable skills.
Joyce?
So I just want to say, I think it's a great opportunity for students too. I know, Jeff, we've already had this conversation, and it is a stepping stone, or for some, you know, it's a goal to aspire to. Also, as far as the pathways go, we've talked about these pathways before. So some of the first couple of years are already maybe in place.
Right.
Right? And so the rest of it, we already heard and said that it would be put in place. You know, the students who might be in it, they might have just finished their first year, and so now this is us and you putting those last pieces together. So as far as, well, if they took the classes but they were already too old, like that wouldn't happen, right? Because these kids are in this pathway leading up to this. So I think it's great.
Thank you. Okay, third goal is also two-year goal. And this goal is to reopen the annex, which had been part of Wareham Public Schools for many years. It's to utilize the annex for our special ed program to provide our students who need a placement outside of the school building to make academic and social growth. Right now, the building is leased to Turning Point and is scheduled to leave the building at the end of December. There's many challenges to this goal that I have to address and work through and figure out the best way to figure them out. And I need to establish, you know, how it's going to be administrated, the staffing, transitioning students, if there's any work that needs to be done to the building. So there's many moving parts to this, but I feel that it's an important goal for the district, and it'll be worth the effort and expense to make it happen.
I know I spoke with one dean at the high school who was very much in favor of this move. Can you tell me what the thought is from the other administrators in the high school or junior high, maybe?
Yeah, both. Both buildings are very excited. We would, you know, include 7th grade students. So it's not just for the high school. And they're very supportive. They think it's something that needs to be done. They wish that it hadn't been moved out years prior. And they're very supportive about this goal and making it happen.
So if I'm correct, the annex is a place where a student could go, hopefully temporarily, get back regulated social emotional learning.
Exactly.
And then get
exactly.
put back into the regular, least restrictive environment back at the high school or the middle school.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
April?
So when this was like the co-op before, it was not only, because I remember when we closed it, I believe Jeff had even pointed, it was the only building in the district we had that actually generated income, aside from like the night school. So is this also going to be something where, because it will be like a sub-separate building and a sub-separate program, that we will almost have it like operating like the cooperative school before, where that will be sort of like an alternative school, not separate from the past program, but we would be able to accept and take tuitions from out-of-district students as well?
Yes.
And so this would be for the students who currently now we are using transportation budget funding to send out of district because that's what they require? Or, because you said for those dysregulate or whatever, so I'm just trying to understand what
So-
population of students you're,
Right now, I'm thinking students that are currently in the high school, in our TLC program currently in the high school. It is potentially for students who are in an outside placement. I'm not saying that wouldn't happen, but that's not really what I'm thinking. I'm thinking more of the students that are currently in the high school. And so my priority would be first that group of students and having it available for them. And then once we kind of figure all that out and who's in the program and how long they're there, then we can kind of look at the students that we have in our current outside placements, and we can also look at, as you mentioned before, tuitioning in students from other districts.
okay, thank you.
I just emphasize what I'm hearing from our superintendent. I think the enthusiasm from the other two, from the middle school and the high school, is because I think it should improve the learning environment in the middle school and the high school. And it will be, as Kevin said, dynamic. You know, prove that you can be in a less restrictive environment, and you're welcome back. So I don't see any negatives associated with this, and if I'm a parent who's concerned about the education environment in the middle school and high school, this is good news.
Okay, goal number 4. So it has been 10 years, at least, it's been over 10 years actually, since the establishment of the educator evaluation system. I think it would be very beneficial for me to work with the evaluators in this district, those who evaluate our professional staff, our teaching staff, to review what expectations are for student learning goals and potential and expected measures of student academic progress. When the educator evaluation system was first established by the Department of Education, they had districts go through a process in which they took what the Department of Education created as a foundation, and then the districts sort of made it their own, so to speak. And so this would be looking at our current system and our student learning goals and the expectations, and sort of calibrating and making sure that we're looking at the same things, we know what measures are available, we have an idea of what we would expect for student growth. I think it would be a great exercise for all of us to go through that conduct evaluations.
I would also like to see included, I know you have principals, assistant principals, department chairs. I would like to, if you're making this sort of a goal, I think you should have maybe teachers that are like currently in front of students involved in the process as well, since they're the ones being evaluated, and the ones that are in front of the students. Because, I mean, you can have as much data, put an evaluation together, and if they're working only to satisfy that evaluation, and they would know what they believe for their grade level or their experience or their current grade is actually measurable, as opposed to what they're told is being measurable. And I think that their input, whether it's one per grade level, whether it's drawn from a lottery system as to what teachers, I think that that would be important to have as part of this process since they're the ones being evaluated, I think they should have a sort of like some input as to what it might be something that's completely irrelevant to what they do now if it was 10 years ago. And if they principal or people who haven't necessarily been in front of students in quite some time, it might have been something that was measurable or made sense 10 years ago, but now isn't. So I would like to have some teacher input as well as department chairs and the
I think
upper
that's
ladder.
I think that's a great suggestion.
Jeff?
So a lot of history. Before the state got involved in reforming the evaluation process, I was tremendously concerned to find out that not a single teacher in some years needed to improve. That literally everybody was rated meeting standards, proficient, whatever phrase that was appropriate for that moment in time. The new evaluation system came in, and there were very clear expectations of, what it would take to be exemplary, what it would take to meet standards or proficient, I can't even remember what the phrase is, need improvement, and of course, not satisfactory, or whatever the term is. And initially, that seemed to work. But over the course of the last, let's say, 5 years, we have evolved in this district, not completely uniquely, but completely, definitely out of the ordinary. We have evolved into a district that rates almost half of its teachers as exemplary. Now, to put that in context, the state's average is 15%, and we are almost 50%. So that concerns me for reasons that I don't need to go into. But the bottom line is that the evaluation system that we spend a lot of time on, and where the documentation and the discussions that occur with teachers as a result of this process, because it's not only summative, it's formative throughout the year with multiple conversations that occur with teachers. But in the end, we still have almost 50% of our teachers rated exemplary, which is totally inconsistent with A, the state average, and B, what the state says you should be doing with the evaluation process. So this is, to me, an important step into some level of accountability. Now, there's another goal involved in this process, but people need to understand that, and when I'm looking for accountability, I fully recognize that if you simply use MCAS and throw that at a teacher, especially 1 year's worth of MCAS, it could be grossly unfair and demoralizing. But there is a concept which the state recognizes, and as the superintendent pointed out, requires it be used, which is called student growth percentile. Now, if you're not familiar with this, what it literally means is the state takes literally every child and compares their growth to every other student's growth. I assume it's grade specific, but if it's not, that's crazy.
No,
So
it
within
is.
the same grade.
Yeah.
And what it means is, If you get an SGP, or a student growth percentile, of 50, that means literally the growth of that student in, say, third grade has been statistically average. Now, you could say, in Massachusetts especially, that's a good number, okay? 50 is a good number, because Massachusetts has some of the finest results. So average growth is a good thing. Now, candidly, not every year is Massachusetts particularly happy with the growth. Some of the post-COVID numbers have not been great, but let's put that aside, because there's a multitude of variables as to why we might have slipped as a state. But what it does mean is if you fall below 50% in growth, let's say you're down around 35, and let's say you have that 35, that's an average for 3 years. Now, I'm not talking extemporaneously. This is something that the three of us have talked about. But if your average growth for 3 years for your students in your classroom is 35%, or 35 instead of 50, which would be average, then you're not doing something right. It's not just 1 year. 3 years in a row, your students aren't achieving. And it's not measuring absolute achievement. It's measuring relative achievement compared to all the other third graders, in my example, in the state. So I think this is an important step towards accountability for 2 reasons. One is, I'd like to make the teachers that actually get rated exemplary feel really good about being rated exemplary, because it's going to be a lot tougher to be exemplary. And if you've got average growth of 65 or 70% for 3 years in a row, you're doing something really right. Now, candidly, that's also a great opportunity for the department chair, the AP, and the principal to say, what is that teacher doing that is achieving these fabulous results? I'm not convinced that that's necessarily happening today. But the reverse is also true. If you need to improve, because your average is 35, then you're going to be told you need to improve, and that's appropriate. That's not the same as being told you're being fired, number one. And number two, I hope, and this is really, really important, I hope if this teacher has been getting good evaluations and getting 35 for growth, that somebody is helping them, A, figure out what they're doing wrong. Maybe they would love to get 75s instead of 35s. My guess is that every teacher would love that result. And somebody ought to be helping them instead of just giving them another proficient or exemplary evaluation, and the kids are learning at 35% of the average growth rate of the state. So to me, this is a step that I've been waiting for almost 2 decades. And I hope it's successful. I really, really hope it is constructively implemented so that no one feels, as one of my favorite school committee members from years ago, Mel Lazarus, said, that evaluations don't become a gotcha moment. That's what he said when he was president of the teachers union, which I think my colleague here remembers, okay? He later was on the school committee. So he had a lot of perspective when we were talking about evaluations. I think this has a great opportunity to be wonderfully constructive and important for multiple reasons, and I've said my piece. You'll be happy to know.
I would just add to that I think it's very important that SGP is understood clearly by all staff going forward as part of this. And one of the strengths in this whole system is the one-on-one sit-downs that you have with your administrator or your evaluator to sit down to develop those goals, to make them meaningful student learning goals. So, and as Jeff said, I would really focus on this word, formative. They are formative. They are supposed to encourage growth in the teacher as well, not the gotcha moment, but we're here to work together to help you, to help your students. So hopefully that's the spirit in which all of this is being done.
Okay. Final goal. And as Mr. Sweat pointed out, there's sort of a second part to the goal I just spoke about. And it's working with that same group. And I think April's suggestion of adding a teacher to this is probably a good idea on this goal also. But working with the the evaluators to calibrate the expectations for educators receiving an exemplary rating. And I think, you know, part of this discussion is not going to just lead us to what makes a teacher exemplary, but will also create a lot of good conversation about proficient and needs improvement. And, you know, the standards themselves outline for each standard what exemplary looks like in that indicator, each of the indicators in the standards. But overall, you know, when you start looking at each indicators and start looking at where the teachers fall, whether they're proficient, exemplary, maybe needs improvement, how do you decide, okay, now that we've done all of that, this teacher's exemplary, this teacher's proficient, this teacher's needs improvement? So sort of look at what are the criteria that you say, this has to be in place and for us to give this teacher exemplary. There's just certain things that are absolutely necessary. And so I think, again, that'll be great conversations around teaching and learning and what our expectations are for our staff.
April?
So I agree with Jeff that I think this is more in line, I feel like the last two goals are essentially, because they're to do with the evaluation, I feel like it's two parts to one goal instead of four separate goals. So I don't know, I would view them as one goal instead of two separate goals, like two parts to one goal.
That's fine.
Yeah,
I agree.
I agree too.
Just whereas it is within the same like evaluatory system for both student growth and it's just two part. So I just think.
Because you're right, I mean, they're pretty much going to happen at the same time anyway.
Right, so I don't know if standard is we usually would have four goals, or if there's anything that you were thinking about as a possible goal and didn't put because you had these as the four. I don't know, but I would view this as three goals instead of four.
Well, it would actually be 4 goals instead of 5.
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, there's 5?
Yeah.
Wait, did I miss one?
Yeah.
Was I missed one altogether?
No.
No, we
you can't.
talked about them all, but
Yeah.
they're all fine.
So is,
Oh, okay, yeah, I miscounted, so yeah, 4 instead of 5.
Right.
I was like, for some reason, in my brain, I had it as 3, but we quickly went through one and didn't kind of discuss as much, so that's probably why.
as Jeff mentioned, that he questioned like whether or not people that are getting that high growth rate are actually sharing with their fellow colleagues. How did you do that? And one of the exemplars, or one of the indicators, one of the criteria for being exemplary
Exactly.
is that you either have to model, the old language said you have to model this practice to other staff. That's in every single standards indicator. You have to model this to be exemplary. They changed the language a little bit. I think it's now contribute to the growth or the education of your colleague in this area. Same thing, but it's really important. In the district I subbed in last year as an administrator, they had this discussion about you could do everything really well in your classroom. Think of your classroom, but it's a silo. And if you don't break out of that silo, then the highest you could get was proficient. You couldn't get exemplary unless you went out of that and shared what you were doing, just following what the state says in their rubric. So that's something I'm sure you will discuss with your administrators, and they'll discuss with their teachers going forward as well.
Absolutely.
What is a way that a teacher would share? How would a teacher?
It could be done in a department meeting, for example, at the high school. Let's say you had you knocked it out of the park in writing, and so you shared some of the techniques with your fellow English teachers in the department meeting would be one way you could do something like that.
There are.
Could be peer-led PD, same thing.
So it wouldn't be difficult for a teacher to be.
No, but you'd have to create structures of
Yeah,
time
it's
to
not creative.
time. It's all about time.
Staff meetings, I've seen staff meetings where they offer teachers opportunity, hey, take, 10 minutes and share out,
All right, a best practice.
So don't want to hold them to something that's impossible.
No,
to do,
right.
that's.
Right.
Now, let's be candid. Unfortunately, not every teacher gets an SGP for their students.
Right.
So some level of creativity is going to be necessary on the principals, et cetera, to figure out how to do something comparable for the teachers that don't get an SGP. But as I mentioned on Tuesday, it would be really good for the what do they call it, a mid-cycle review of your goals.
Cycle review, yeah.
If you could have 3 years' worth of data for those that do get SGPs to see what, for just that component of the evaluation, I'm not suggesting that is the only piece of an evaluation, but it would be really interesting to see, you just using SGP, how many fall below, for example, 40, how many fall below, above 60, just what kind of results we'd be getting just on that one important measurement. But that's a lot of data, and I'm sure you'll figure out how to get it, and I don't think the mid-cycle is until after the first of the year, is it?
It's around there, yeah.
Yeah.
I think-
Anyway, that would be really interesting to see.
yeah.
Now, are we voting to,
No, we're voting at our next meeting on these goals. So they're presented tonight, we'll vote at next meeting next
A
week.
week from tonight.
Yeah.
okay.
Let's try to
Well, Dr. DeAndrea, thank you. Appreciate
Thank you
it.
very much.
So at this time, we are going to recess until 6:30, at which point we'll continue with our agenda, and so we will take a break for about 10 minutes.
Like,
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for coming this evening. We're going to continue our school committee meeting after that brief recess, and we are really happy tonight to have everybody here because we are recognizing the unified track team from Wareham High School tonight. And we're being recognized for winning the Division II state championship. Congratulations. You young men and women are one of a handful of teams in the history of Wareham High School to have won a state championship. So you should feel very proud about that. For the rest of your life, you can call yourselves state champions. So congratulations. What we're going to do tonight, the school committee is going to come up and we're going to call you up, shake your hand. We're going to ask you to stand around the front right here so we can take some pictures so you can get on cable TV, and we'll get some pictures for the newspaper as well, and that we'll give to you guys going forward. And you also have a special track-related keychain this evening, and there's a little memento of your state championship and the pride that we, as the Wareham School Committee and the whole town of Wareham, have for all of you. So once again, thank you. We're going to come up front and ask the committee members to join me.
I did in the basketball.
Want to grab a couple of these?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, what I'd like to do is recognize those members who are not here tonight, but I'd like to just let you know their names. Jack Solich, Alton McCain, Antonio Colon, Michael Enos, Shane Vermilia, Bryson Mobilia, Madeline Casalius, Owen Harridan, and Damian Leap. Let's give a round of applause for your teammates. And so now we'd like to recognize the individuals that are here this evening. We'd ask you just to, we would like to shake your hands, and you'll come around and you get this keychain. And Ms. Bakayaki, would you like to read what the keychain says?
It reads, "When your legs get tired, run with your heart." Can I just take a minute? I know that
Right
my
ahead.
other school committee members know that I often share about my time that I spend volunteering with the Unified Track Team. So I just want to say congratulations to everyone and thank you for allowing me to be a part of your team and help out when I can, and I'm so really very proud of all of you.
So first up, I would like to recognize Jennifer Viveras. And Jennifer, you get this. We'll just ask you to go over here at the end. Tyler McIver.
Thank you very much.
Justin Maxson. Braden Revita. Michael Clemens.
Happy birthday, Michael.
Go. Sydney Brunette. And Karina Holmgren. And we also have, last but not least, Jacob Pitsley. Oh, sorry, one more, not that, Madison Doucette.
That's a yes.
We also want to recognize Coach Kashner. Coach, congratulations. And Joyce, you want to read?
Actually, I think Sydney is going to read the speech.
Great.
Oh, thank you. So Alton McCain has written us this wonderful speech. Unfortunately, he can't be here, but he's the team captain of our lovely team. Here we go. To the whole school committee, I just wanted to say, personally, thank you for recognizing our entire unified track and field team for winning our first state championship in school history for the unified track and field. It's really an honor for being team captain for this great team. Our team got really excited at the state meet in Natick because we won the state championship by beating Sandwich High School by 2 points. 2 points, 81-79. Imagine that. To the school committee members, I know you guys have fun recognizing our championship teams like the back-to-back 2023 and 2024 boys basketball championship teams and our 2024 unified track and field team. I also can't wait to raise our championship banner in the gym. Also, personally, our unified track coach, Miss Kashner, has been coaching for many years, and maybe one day, Miss Kashner, you should be inducted into the Wareham High School Athletics Hall of Fame. And maybe one day our 2024 championship team should be inducted into the Wareham Athletics Hall of Fame. Again, thank you to the school committee for recognizing our unified track and field team, championship team. It's really an honor, and hopefully next year our unified track and field can be recognized again if we try our best to go back to back.
We also want to recognize who just came in, Antonio. So we'll ask you guys to stand up right here, we'll take a couple of pictures, and, can you squeeze this all in? Everyone's gonna move in.
I'm gonna take this one to the website and then I'll get out of the okay?
Jacob.
Right here, in the middle. There we go. Thank you. Okay. Look at that crew. Great job, everybody. Thank you very much.
Guys have a great school year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Don't do that.
It was, you couldn't see anything. There's so many dots. It was like, camouflage. Yeah, it was
Very nice. Public participation, I know what you're saying. Maybe I'll just move good news to the bottom or something. I'll do it right away. I'll do public participation, then we'll go into the string sports.
Okay.
And remind me to throw it on before the end.
Under any other business.
Yeah, under other.
I just felt like we did.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing.
That's really sad.
Yes, it is.
but you gotta keep that pipe on. Right?
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, Sydney.
Before we continue with our next agenda item, I'd like to have a moment of silence for Kyle Thomas Duffy, who was a member of the graduating class of 2020 at Wareham High School. Kyle was a member of the U.S. Navy Security Force, who passed away recently in Guam. So at this moment, could we have a moment of silence? Thank you. Next agenda item is public participation. Is there anyone that wishes to address the committee? Seeing no one, we'll move on to our Spring Sports 2024 review, fall sports update.
What, you think we had no good news?
In our
I'm going to move it to, I didn't want to do it right after that. Okay, so I'll hit it for it.
Again.
All set? Okay. Well, that was nice. It was very nice. And the banner's already up.
Oh, perfect.
Already up. And if you go to the gym now, we had the gym floor all totally done over. And we put up on one end the state champions, yellow flags instead of the blue ones. The only one that's missing is, I guess now, I didn't realize it, is the '95 Super Bowl.
Hey, now.
I'm going to have to switch one of those over to that. And then we have a new flag that's out. Instead of having a banner right for every sport, it's too much. We got the Mayflower Conference, and then we got, like, for example, Coach's team won it, so we got girls tennis, 2024, softball, and volleyball. And that's what we're going to continue to do. If you get a state champion, then you'll get that special banner. But that's not, he had a state finalist. We put a little yellow in his blue, but I couldn't get the total yellow because we're going to reserve those for, which is an incredible feat, even though that is an incredible thing, too.
Absolutely.
The spring was pretty good. Best record in a while for our teams. We won 2 conference championships, and obviously Unified Track won the state championship. We had several MVPs of the conferences, Coaches of the Year, and it was good. Everything's went pretty well, and we're excited to continue. I think the league has helped us as far as our non-conference games. We are more suitable to our level of play. We try to, depending on how strong the team is, we try to match them up accordingly so the competition's even, and I think that's helped us with our overall play. And if you have any other questions, that's about it. I'm pretty happy with how
How
we
about the
did in this
GPA?
spring. And the GPA is incredible. I always marvel at that anyway, and that, the kids that do play sports, for the most part, really do well in school. It's incredible. And I'm very happy with that one, and it's exciting.
Great.
Any questions?
Any questions? Joyce?
So I can't pull mine up, but yes, the GPAs were amazing. Always the highlight of your report. So my question is about buses, and I know maybe in the spring it was challenging, and I know there's a lot of other things going on in the spring. So do you have any challenges this season yet?
Well, no. Buses are a challenge for the fact that, say we have 3 teams moving out that day. It's hard for them to accommodate us. So I try to, in fact, Coach Cassidy just left, this was one we were just talking about. So I try to schedule them all between 2:30 and 2:45. We used to go 150 more. They just cannot do it. They have the runs after. We don't have enough bus drivers. So I just told what I'm going to start to do is call the schools and see if we can just start the games at 4:15.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? So that we can, like she went to Bristol Aggie today for a scrimmage at 2:30. She didn't get there till like 3:40 because that's Bristol Aggie's in the middle of nowhere, if you've ever been there. So that's the only issue we have. We don't have enough buses, so we got to, search it out. And it's so much more expensive to do that. Our bus drivers and transportation, when it's in-house, is half the price of going to, say, Tremblay's, Amaril's, whatever it may be. And we just don't have enough bus drivers to accommodate us all the time. That's why when Coach is able to drive his bus, that saves us a
Not
lot
every
of
coach
money.
drives a bus like
It
Jeff.
saves us a lot of money.
Your principal there is the one who got me into it.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, if all our
Thank God.
coaches could do that,
That was a long time ago.
and they just make it so hard for us, someone
Was
to
a
get their
long
bus
time ago.
drivers
You were an
license.
AP at the high
I
school.
know it was.
And that's the biggest issue. Everything else right now is, moving right along as best we can, and
Okay.
I've been happy with everything.
I think it's also one of the biggest costs as well, not
Oh.
just because it's gone up exponentially over the years, and when we have to outsource, it's even more, but it's also with this new league, we're traveling all over the place for games, and when we're not playing in the league, we're finding non-league games, which a lot of times may be a little further away. Sometimes you can get some close ones, but
Right, right.
sometimes it's a little more travel. And then we won't even talk about the tournaments. But the tournaments are, it was...
Who plans those? Who makes
No, no,
that
It's
up?
all
Yeah.
done through the matrix of the
crazy.
MIAA and Max Preps, so it's based on rating, and it's just, you have no control. Ed, we had our softball team went out to Western.
They went out to
Talking
that
With
north
Northwest.
corner.
Adams, yeah,
where Vermont,
far, yeah.
Massachusetts, and New York meet.
Yeah,
They went there for a
I
game.
know,
But
yeah.
Kevin could probably testify to this. I know when I was coaching, I wish we would have had this, because to get out of the South Sectional when I coached, it was always us, Brockton, and Durfee, for an example. And then, once you got out of it, your chances of winning the
Won.
state championships went way up.
Oh.
So now, these teams in Western Mass who play nobody, because their record was better, they would have an easy pass to get there. Our path was so much more difficult. So this way, I like it. The only problem is, the size of our school, most of the small schools are in Western Mass. Like Division I schools are all in Eastern Mass, so it wouldn't have been as big a deal. But most of the smaller schools, and so that's what happened. So that's the only unfortunate. But I think it gives you and you know what's funny? When you go down to the final games, the Final Four, it's unbelievable how accurate it's been, with that formula.
But it's cost us a lot more money in transportation.
there, yeah.
Especially when you have great teams. You know, I know we did the winter sports review a while ago last year, but that was, increased cost because you're driving, to all these games and,
further they
there are
go.
extra games that you really didn't budget for. But it's a good problem to have,
It
don't get me
is, it
wrong.
is, yeah.
It's always good when teams are successful and they're making it to the playoffs, and
Bless you.
especially if they make it deep. So it's a good problem to have, but it does have a cost associated with it.
Right. So my other question is, meet the coaches. Did you do that in person? Like,
No, but what I found that what they do now is they contact the coaches, contact the players and their families, and then what I have now is they each make up a letter, all right, and that goes to each person on the team has to sign this thing, and then we in turn, every kid on the team's parents gets this letter that informs them about all the code of conduct and the rules for that team. We just finished it up. Now, I'll pass that out on Monday, to be honest with you. All of them had to send me this letter this week. Coach did that last time, and I think it's better, meet the coaches just to get small gatherings. So I'm like, this is so much better. And then this is our team.
I'm sure it's better for some reasons. Selfishly, I mean, the Booster Club has pretty much disappeared.
Yes.
And it's just really sad to me. And, that was an opportunity to at least try to
Well-
get, parents.
well-
And it's only one season, and it's only the parents that are there, but that was like your one and only chance, so we didn't.
Well, what I'm going to tell Janine is, when we send out these letters next week, there's another letter I can put in about the Booster Club and about we need members badly. That can go in at the same thing.
We
This
really-
goes right to the parents.
We'd really like to have one member from every team.
Yeah,
that's-
it's just not going to happen. It's just,
it's not-
yeah.
Every time we've tried to do that, I understand,
Yeah. So, I mean, as of right now, I don't believe the concession stand will be open.
That might
Unless
not be a
something
bad thing
changes.
because we
Yeah.
had a power surge. It surged every appliance in there, so
Oh, I didn't know
it
that.
may not be a bad thing if it's not ready to be open. We're working with Eversource on it.
Oh, okay.
Everything in there.
Yeah.
Is that why I saw some things outside, so maybe that's.
It all got fried?
So the line coming into the building from the street, they were doing repairs on the line, and whatever they did surged everything in there. We had an electrician look at it. He said everything inside from the building in is fine, the issue's on the street side. And oh, by the way, none of your appliances are gonna work now. So we're working
Called
with,
the claim against Eversource.
we've got one in, we're working on that, so. It's, we've been in communication and they know. And we sent an email today, I copied Ed, and the Tigers also have equipment in there as well. So we let, the Tigers are copied on the email as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
In terms of fall sports, what percentage of teams have a JV team now?
Well, we're just working on that now. Girls, just talked to Megan. We've been trying to make sure she had a scrimmage today. She had enough for JV and varsity. Boys soccer's on the verge of it. I'm waiting till, again, tomorrow to do it. Field hockey, on the other hand, is just about going to have a team. I'm a little very nervous about that right now. We ended up applying for a 7th grade waiver today. Football has the best numbers we've had since I can remember, and they got 6 JV games. So they haven't had JV games here in a long time in football.
Since Dylan was a freshman.
So, freshman, yeah, well, it's a combination of mostly 9th graders, some 8th graders, and some 10th graders. And most of the schools are doing now, so we got 6 of those games. And, I was happy with that. So the only sport that's really struggling, volleyball's got 30 girls, 30-something girls. Remember, only 6 play at a time, so we have 3 teams. So the only sport that's not doing well is field hockey, and we've had 3 coaches.
And that's been like 4
in 3
coaches, yeah, I was going to say, it's
yeah,
been
3
multiple coaches.
in 3 years.
Yeah.
The girl 3 years ago did a great job. She had a baby, da-da-da-da, and then the assistant had a baby, and then
One,
now,
Well, you have a great coach in there now.
yes, we
yeah,
do.
yeah.
We do.
She's working really hard at it. I just met with her again today. We went to the middle school, and we're trying to do different things, and we're hopeful. We had some sign up today, and and hopefully we'll have enough to have a team and then go from there. Yeah, she's working hard at it, and that's the only team that's struggling for numbers. I'm pretty happy with that.
One thing we did this year, if there's not enough kids for a JV team, there's not a JV coach.
Yeah.
So hoping that would maybe motivate to get enough kids to come out and create, a feeder program for the varsity. So I think, to Ed's point, I think the coaches are really working hard. Second day of school today, they work in the hallways, work in the cafeteria, trying to get some kids out that should be out. And I anticipate numbers will be even bigger by next week, but I don't think we'll see a JV field hockey team, but I think, to Ed's point, we'll see a boys JV soccer team. And the tough part in this league is they play back-to-back, so varsity will be, the girls' varsity would be on the game field, JV would be on the softball field. So it's not like, if you had, 7 or 8 JV players, you could bring down a couple young varsity players and play on a different day. We just don't have that flexibility in this league, so it's tough to have the JV program unless you have a little more than 2 times, what you need to put on the field.
And what we can do here, though, where the girls practice, it's a smaller field. So it actually helps us as far as this goes. We'll play 8 on 8 at that field. And then the regular field, play the regular 11 on 11. And then when we go away, we just talk to them and say, if we don't have 11, we can play 10 on 10, 9 on 9 JVs. So we'll have enough to do that. We don't want to turn, because what happens is if you got 11, maybe 14 playing the game, 15, 16, but if you're 17, 18, 19, 20, you're not going to play. So now how long are they going to last? So our goal is to try to get a JV team so that they do last. And same thing with football. What was happening was you can't expect an 8th grader or 9th grader to go and play an 18-year-old kid. It's tough. So now we're hoping now with these 6 JV games, it's going to help. It's going to help. The coach has done a great job. Coaches have done a great job building up a morale and getting kids to play and all that stuff, and very, very happy about it. And unfortunately, he's got one of the toughest schedules we've had in a long time, and hopefully he'll do okay. But, he's working really hard at it. That's all you can ask as an athletic director, that your coaches work hard and they give you their best effort, and I feel that they're doing that.
Any other questions? Jeff?
Yes.
Just a comment, you should see that Unified Track, boys and girls tennis, are the only teams that don't require officials, which means they have the highest ethical standards and honesty. So I assume that they get credit for that, because otherwise, it'll cost you a lot more money.
We don't have that in the budget.
It blows my mind, even in the state tournament, they don't have officials at girls' tennis. I can't get over that. I don't understand that.
Oh, no, in the semis and the finals?
Yeah, but the first few rounds, they don't.
Oh, they
I'm like,
don't. No.
really? I know Kevin, if his basketball team, you don't think he would have been trying to...
No officials.
I would have done the same thing.
Couldn't have been any worse.
By the way, just so people know, and so that we'll put this in the budget, okay? They're coming out with electronic line calling devices for,
It's like the
Public-
Olympics.
for public courts, just like the Olympics, so.
Wow.
I'm involved in the USTA, and they're experimenting with it now, so I have no idea how much it's going to cost, but
Keep us posted. The budget's due in a couple weeks.
it probably won't be this year.
Okay. Good.
Well, thank you both.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Great job, Ed.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to the MSBA roof project update.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey, Eric.
Feel like I haven't been here since before construction even started. Update with the roof, we're almost done. 2 more weeks left, and we're good to go. So you guys all have the map in front of you, correct?
Thanks to Jamie.
Yep. Thank you, Jamie. The area that's in gray, that was obviously last year's project. That's all said and done. The areas that you see in green are already ripped and replaced, and that's all completed roof. Plumbing and HVAC to the ones in green. Right now, by the end of tomorrow, the cafeteria that's in yellow that you see in your map will be done. Be completed with all HVAC, roof drains, electrical, and roofing. Then from there, they're moving over to the auditorium, which will take about 3 days. move over to the auditorium and band room, which is roof area H and I believe. Those will be 3 days. Then they're moving over to that little section called roof area R between the cafeteria and gym. That'll be a day, and then they're going to finish off over the gym. The reason for this is we had a lot of abatement work that we needed to get done during the summer, and we wanted to get all the classrooms, above all the classrooms, done as well over the summer. So we anticipated that this was going to kind of dip into the school year, so we just tried planning less impact on the students. What roofs would be the less impact? So cafeteria obviously is a big one for us, just because central office is underneath that as well, and that's the most mechanical roof, if you will, a lot of HVAC equipment up there. So, but like I said, this will all be done. Substantial completion is September 16th. So in theory, if we have no rain days, we'll give this 2 more weeks and this whole roof will be done and behind us for once. It's a good feeling. That's pretty much it. If we want to go back to what we asked the town for when we were appropriating funding for this, we asked them for $8.9 million, I believe, with both projects combined. Last year's project was just north of $1.2 million, and this we call it Phase 2, which is this summer's project, was just shy of $3.3 million. So altogether under 4.5 million compared to the 8.9 that we asked for.
That was going to be my question.
Yeah, so the estimator came back real high. I don't know if he was still COVID brain, thinking that materials are going to be really high, but I'm glad he overshot and not undershotted it, right?
That's beyond overshooting.
Yeah,
Double.
so, yeah, the reason for Phase 2 to be reduced even more to 3.2 million is that we just had a meeting with Derek Sullivan last week. We had about almost $500,000 in contingency funds, meaning like any pre-existing condition that we find along the road that needs to get fixed is obviously a change order and added to the cost. We're toward the tail end of it, and we reduced that down to we put 100,000 in there just in case, but that should be plenty of enough to cover the rest of this project, so. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's obviously great news, okay?
Yeah, it's huge.
My real concern is we might not have had it approved
Correct.
at that much higher number, and then we would have missed out on something that was essential.
Yeah.
So kudos to Derek to coming through,
Yeah.
But when we did, I don't know if you were part of this, but I remember actually going to the meetings. When we did the elementary school, we had not one but 2 estimates. And I remember going to the meeting to reconcile the 2 estimates. How many, we only had 1 estimate for this?
One estimate, yeah, one cost estimator estimate. Yeah.
Really?
Yep, yeah. I don't know if core projects are different than ARPs, like the Accelerated Repair Program, and that they required 2 estimates because it's such a greater number. I don't know. I wasn't a part of any of that. I got the building right when I got hired.
This
my
this
role
isn't a
now.
criticism, I'm it's not acceptable to be that far off.
No, and even with this project, so we split this up into 2, right? To make
Yeah.
it more appealing for the town to vote for, to kind of cut that second phase down. But if we knew it was going to be this cheap, and granted, no one knew anyways, but if we knew it was going to be somewhat like this, we could have just had the whole roof done last summer.
Bingo.
Well, true, but would the cost have been different last year?
It might have been.
Might have been even
There's
less.
a lot of factors that
When
go
you
into it.
Sometimes you spend more when you divide the projects up in 2.
Well, with that case, even with our architect and OPM, who are on the project, it's kind of 2 contract. Now we're
Exactly.
covering them for 2 years, not 1.
True.
But compared to the overall scheme, that's just
And let's not forget, the estimator gets paid.
correct. Yeah. Overshot that, but in the good way, right, I guess.
Okey doke.
But that's pretty much it for the roof. Wrapping up, and hopefully next summer is nice and quiet, but I see things in the near future that's probably not going to be, so.
So there were no surprises and no accidents, no nothing. It was just a routine job.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah, knock on wood, we still have a couple more roofs, but last year, we ran into unforeseen issues with all the roof drains that they started to evacuate, if you will. A lot of There was one gypsum board that had asbestos in it, so each one of those had to be abated the correct way. Negative pressure tent, suck everything out, make sure nothing falls through. So we knew what we were getting into. It was kind of good that we did it in 2 years. So it's like, all right, now we see what next year is going to look like, and we can prepare for it. So that was it. There's a couple change orders out there, but nothing major. We had to replace a makeup air unit, but we knew that before. Anyways, it was old.
So we were playing a tennis tournament, and they were really noisy, just FYI.
Oh, yeah. Ask them. There's usually a Lowell right in front of their office every day.
That's true. You heard the noise, yes. And it wasn't the workmen, well, it was the machines that carry all the stuff
Correct, the
up to
Lowell.
the roof.
Yep. Yeah. I was told they're all going to be doing it from the back, so I don't know what changed, but as long as they just get it done.
It's
then
all
we'll be
good.
all right.
It's all good.
Yep. But any other questions?
Dr.
I
DeAndrea?
just want to say thank you to Eric for all his work. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts to these projects, and he does a great job of just making sure everything's moving along, keeping me updated. I mean, school ended, I can't remember the date, it was like the 17th and the 18th. These trucks just came down on the middle school and were dropping off materials,
Oh, the
and
middle
people
school
were on the
parking lot,
roof.
I
I mean,
never
it
thought
was
it'd be
like
empty.
bang.
Yeah. No.
And so he's done a great job of just managing the project and all the parts. And
So why do we need an
We're very
OPM?
fortunate to have him as part of our team.
Thank you. What'd you say?
I said, well, why do we need an OPM?
I mean, they help out tremendously.
Yeah. They get,
I can oversee the
get
OPM,
paid
who
more than
oversees
you
the
do.
project, so it's great. Yeah, they're a little more involved than I am as far as paperwork side is, but as far as daily coordination with the schools, me and the site coordinators here just really worked and just tried to get it all done.
nice job.
Thank you.
Eric, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have the superintendent's report.
Okay, you had the superintendent's newsletter in your packet, and I asked that you approve the bill and payroll warrants.
So moved.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, 400.
And I can't believe we're already back to school. It's been such a fast summer, but our students came in on Wednesday. It was a great day. The kids were very excited, had all their back-to-school outfits on, and a very positive energy in the buildings. Thank you to all of our staff for all the work that they do to prepare for the arrival of our students. And it was a successful opening this year. I wanted to share with you just the enrollment numbers. Right now, we're looking at 914 students at the elementary school, 437 students at the middle school, and 538 students at the high school. So that would be a grand total of 1,889 students. Of course, it's probably inaccurate because I got that number this morning and it's always changing, but that's about where we're at.
so that's a little less than last year, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So help me reconcile this. I was in transportation for reasons that are unrelated, just updating my license. Anyway, it was the first day of school. I said, so how many kids did we transport? And she had a number about 2,200. How could we have 1,800 and she's got a number of 2,200? How do I reconcile that number?
I'd have to ask her where she got that number. I mean, so she's certainly including out-of-district students, but...
Well, when you say out-of-district students, you're not.
Right, well, this is students in our buildings.
Okay, so that's not 300.
Right. So again, I don't know where Marie got that number. I'd have to ask her. But it certainly does include out-of-district students. And
Okay.
so...
Maybe the estimator helped with,
That's right.
Bingo. But she thought it went very smoothly, and then you ruined everything with your email, with the kid the first grader who got off at the wrong stop.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that doesn't happen more often, frankly.
Yeah.
First graders?
Yeah. It was his stop from last year, so...
no, that makes sense.
Or her stop
Okay.
from last year, I should say. And that's all I have from my report.
Thank you, Dr. DeAndrea. Next up, we have school committee report about the mask delegate vote, which is going to be very easy this year, because I have a hunch I know who wants to be the delegate, and right now, we only have 2 people signed up for the conference, and so that would make
Oh, well,
him an alternate unless he wants to be a delegate. So
isn't it my turn?
I will ask who would ever like to
Isn't it
be.
my turn? No, but I don't want it.
You want to break my heart in public, Jeff? Rude.
I nominate April.
Second, well, I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 400, that
I know
April
you
will
guys
be our
think I'm
delegate.
crazy, but it's my favorite part of the
We
conference.
know that. We know that.
So I'll nominate Jeff as the alternate.
And I will second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 400. Perfect. Congratulations,
See,
and
that
thank you
was
for
easy,
representing us. I
wasn't
appreciate it.
Why aren't more of us going?
I have a conflict at the moment, but we'll see if I
Yeah.
might be able to change it, but.
I make it a point to take it off as soon as they give us the dates to make sure that I can be there.
I did it many times. You're very welcome to do it.
I moved the good news around to this portion. If anyone would like to share good news going forward. Yes, Dr. DeAndrea.
Yeah, I have a few things. I wanted to share an email from Sharon Rice, who is the director of the Council on Aging. This is from August 1st, and it was written to Jane Fondulis, our Beyond School Time director. And she says, "Dear Mrs. Fondulis, 20 seniors," and that means senior citizens, not seniors in high school. 20 seniors and I have just returned from a lovely visit with some of the students in your summer care program. We have been very fortunate enough to take part in a wonderful Pen Pal program with the students over the past 5 weeks, which culminated in today's meet and greet. It was a rewarding experience for all. She said, "Thank you for being open to new programs and to this multi-generational exchange. It's great to be part of something that promotes empathy, understanding, and compassion." So I thought that was a really nice email from Sharon Rice and a very nice program. I also wanted to share that Marie Ferreira shared with me that the Wareham Police Department made up for all of 40 of our buses and vans these signs that are placed in the back window of each school bus and van at the end of every run when the driver is finished. It's a safety feature to make sure that no child is left behind on a school bus and the driver is required to walk to the back of the bus. So these are the signs. I just have a picture of it. I'm happy to just pass it around, or if I can just show it to you. This bus has been checked for sleeping children. It says Wareham Public Schools and it has the police. So that was really nice of the police department to do that.
It is very nice, and I like the sign a lot. Just so people understand, this replaced something else that was already there that simply said, "No children on board," okay? And you were required to go back and put that, after your run, to go back and put that on the bus, and in the process of doing that, you're inspecting the bus. So it's great, it's lovely, it's appreciated, but it's not like we were ignoring it, and there was a protocol for making sure that there weren't sleeping kids on the bus when you returned your bus to the lot.
Right. And one more, you may remember last year we had a staff member who recognized in the morning, it was a regular school day, but recognized in the morning that a colleague was not present and followed up on that, and we learned that the colleague was having a medical emergency, and fortunately, due to that, it really prevented something tragic happening. We had a similar type of thing happen over the summer where, in the summer program, where we had a staff member having a medical emergency and another staff member, just because that staff member wasn't there, followed up on it, and was, because of that, again, I think it was something that potentially save someone's life. So I just want to recognize that our staff is very, they follow up with each other, they care about each other very much, and certainly that has proven to save lives.
Jeff?
So, yes, agree with everything you just said. I also love what Jane was doing, multi-generational. The Surgeon General recognizes that loneliness is a national epidemic. It's actually worldwide. And living alone, which can contribute to issues like this. I don't know if this person who had a medical emergency was living alone, but lots of people do live alone. And a recent Harvard study, the numbers are staggering of the people who are lonely. Even 18 to 25-year-olds are feeling lonely. And the irony is you don't have to live alone to feel lonely. You just have to feel not connected to people who care about you. So anything we can do of a multi-generational perspective in particular, I think helps the community. So thank Jane for that.
Absolutely.
Dr. DeAndrea, I'm not sure about the details, but didn't I see in the paper that you participated in a giveaway of school supplies with the
Yes.
town? Maybe you want to mention that?
That was on Saturday, last Saturday.
Wait a minute, was this included in the budget?
Well,
this was
the town paid for it. Came out of the town budget.
That was a joke, Wareham.
This is something that is spearheaded by the select board, working with Derek, and Derek reached out to me and asked what school supplies would you recommend? And so we gave him the list that goes out to the school, our students, and they bought a significant number of supplies: pencils, pens, highlighters, notebooks, backpacks, all kinds of really good, useful stuff for our students. And so Saturday, we were on Merchants Row, is that what it is?
Merchants
I
Way.
think, Wareham, we covered
Merchants
that.
Way in the old train station, or the renovated train station, set up tables, and families came through and took supplies. It was a great event. I think we had about 300 students come through.
That's great.
So it was really, really.
I just wanted to thank the other town boards and the town administrator for helping out with that.
Thank you to the town for that support, absolutely.
I did want to mention quickly, and I will mention this when the principals are here, but I was really impressed with the high school newsletter that I happened to see. It was informative, colorful, easy to read, very visual, and the new platform that the district purchased, the Samore platform. So I do want to commend the high school for that, and hope there's more of that going forward in the future.
Elementary put out one too, I don't know.
Okay,
if you saw it.
haven't seen that yet.
Maybe I'll send it to you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, they did, I did see it.
Great. All right. Sorry, April.
For any other business part, if we're at that, I just have a question. I know that the Massachusetts RMV and CDL licenses has become sort of, in the last couple of days, a topic of controversy because people are receiving notices for revocation of their CDLs possibly, and I know that they're sort of kind of backtracking and reversing course while they can hold on to them during their appeals process. I don't know that, or if it will affect any of our drivers in our district, because some of these things that they're getting notifications for happened in the 70s and the 80s, or things that had been previously appealed. So I just want to know if we have, or if you've thought, or if this is the first year even knowing it, that we have a plan in place to support any drivers. I know they have, I think, until November 15th. It was supposed to be like cut off as of tomorrow with nothing, but I believe that the backlash has sort of have them rethinking, but that we would have a plan in place should any of our bus drivers receive one of these letters, that we have supports in place to assist them with the appeal process and make sure that we're already short drivers, I believe, a good chunk of the time, that we don't lose any significant drivers over something that seems to be issues that would have been cleared decades ago. So I just wanted to bring that up, make sure that we have any possible supports in place for any drivers that might be affected by this, and that we have a plan for that. So I wasn't sure if that had been, literally within the last 2 days, so I don't know if it has been discussed with transportation, but I just wanted to put it out there and make sure that we are able to support any drivers that might be affected by this.
Well, yeah, thank you I did hear a little bit about it, and I don't know much about it, but I will follow up with Marie and see what we can do, and see if it has been an issue with any of our drivers. I have not heard anything at this point, but you're absolutely right. We need to support our drivers because there's such a shortage, and we need to make sure that we keep them.
Well, the good news is, and it could be a really serious problem, is I haven't heard anything either. And we have an excellent relationship with the registry, and to the point where she says, if you've got any problems, let me know and I'll help you with them. And it's in literally everybody's best interest, the registry, the district, parents, everybody's best interest that these problems get resolved. So I think we'll be okay, but you're right, it could be a mess.
I would just rather, have a support in place and a plan and not need it than need it and not have a plan. So that's all.
I'll remind everyone, our next meeting is next Thursday, September 5th, and that the 2 blue pieces of paper you have in front of you need to be signed for the harassment and ethics policy and turned in to Jamie, please, before we go. With that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 400. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Noah.